Hi, my name is Alain Vigneault, coach of the Flyers. You're listening to Snow the Goalie.
Welcome into the Snow the Goalie podcast. And Russ, we're starting off the 2019-2020 season with a bang. Yep. We figure the Flyers, it's a new season. It's a new feeling with this team. Who better to start off with our first interview than the head coach, Alain Vigneault? Alain, thank you for joining us
on the program.
My pleasure. Now, we want to start off. Russ and I we've been having a big argument.
Okay.
In his other life, he teaches language. He teaches German, and he does a little bit of French.
Okay. And Spanish. Well,
and Spanish too.
French is like my fourth.
Okay, all right. But we have an argument about the pronunciation, the correct pronunciation for your name, and I'm sure you've had it butchered over the years.
Yes, for sure.
So I'm the American here, all right, and I say Alain Vigneault. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, but he wants to do it a different way.
I would think that would be Alain Vigneault.
Alain Vigneault.
Yeah.
Alain Vigneault.
Yeah.
Probably the easiest would be just to call me AV.
AV. And there it is.
That's the solution.
AV from now on.
Everybody calls me coach or AV.
Okay. All right. So, well, then we'll do it from that. We'll take it from
now on. AV.
From now on. So AV. You're getting excited now to start camp. One of the things that's really kind of interesting, over the years, you've said we're at all of your different stops, that there's not one system that you want to teach because you kind of base it around the team that you have, and that it's every team is different, so therefore everything that you do is different. When you look at this team, if you've had a summer to kind of take in what you have here, how would you assess it, and what do you think that what's this team going to look like when we start playing hockey?
I think without having seen them on the ice, being physically on the ice with them, I think that we've got some good size up front with good skill, and I believe that we can make this type of forward play a fast game. I believe on D we've got good skill set. We've got guys that can move the puck, that could support the attack, which in my estimation right now, and this is without having been with them on the ice, will permit this team to play a fast game. Quick to check, quick to transition, quick north-south, quick to attack. That's my assessment without seeing him on the ice, short of what we have planned system-wise, but we're going to let this unfold. We've got obviously a lot of teaching, technical and tactical stuff that we want to get through in the first 3 days. And then we're going to see how quickly our players are absorbing what we're throwing at them. And if we are right in assuming that with the good size that we have up front, with the mobility that we have on D, that we can play that fast checking, fast transition puck game that we believe can be very successful in today's NHL.
So you were saying about how, not having seen the entire team on ice yet, you're still trying to evaluate. You did have the opportunity to work with a few of your players over at World Championships. Just want to get an idea of getting to finally see up close Carter Hart, what you thought of him and what you thought of the other guys who were over there.
Well, I really didn't pay that much attention to the other guys on the other team. I was just getting used to my new guys and my team. So really I got to know Coots quite a bit. He was an important element in our team. Strong two-way player, smart player. You guys have seen his growth through the years, so I'm not throwing anything at you that you don't already know. In Carter, I saw a young kid that extremely anxious about wanting to improve. He was always with Dilly, our goaltender coach, same goaltender coach I had with Team Canada. I always was on the ice wanting to get better. He got some. I think he got 3 games over there. Matt Murray was the top goaltender, 2 Stanley Cup rings. So, but I liked Carter's approach. I liked the way he prepared. I especially liked his work ethic, and I think we've got a solid young player there. One thing that I will share with you that I did on purpose here, and I did the same thing when I got to New York. Did not watch a lot of video of the Flyers. I really want to come in, and I said this at my initial press conference here, as a matter of fact, that I wanted to go in there. Fresh mind, no preconceived notion. Let the guys go on the ice, show me what they can do, show me their work ethic, show me their coachability, and that's what we're going to see start Friday on the ice.
And I think that's kind of an interesting way of approaching it, because when you come off of a disappointing season, let's just say like they had here last year, it's probably good for the mindset of the player, right, to come into it saying, oh, okay, well now forget what's happened in the past. We have a brand new start with a brand new coaching staff, and we can turn that page quickly.
And you have a clean slate.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have a clean slate. I'm not interested at all on what happened prior to me here. What I'm interested on is what's going to happen starting Thursday. Our initial meeting, our initial contact. Right now, I've gone through the process in the last, I would say, week to 10 days of meeting each player one-on-one, starting to build a rapport, a relationship, exchanging on what my expectations are as far as readiness, work ethic, preparation, etc. And it's been good. I've spent quite a bit of time with each player individually to get to know them a little bit, and I think it's going to pay off. It's just the beginning of our relationship. I really sense a motivated group, a group that feels that they have a lot to prove to others, but to themselves also. That they can be a good team, they can be a playoff team, and they want to go out there and they want to succeed.
You mentioned Carter a little bit. Obviously, he's to the fan base here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's looked upon as he's the guy that's going to make the difference. Yeah. We've not had a great goalie in Philadelphia for decades, right? Yeah. But how important
I've heard that from a number of sources.
Well, you've had great goalies where you've coached, right?
Yes,
I mean, all through your career. But how important is it going to be? Obviously, it's only his second season, to really temper that spotlight a little bit and make sure that he's managed properly.
You know what? I don't want to temper the spotlight in the sense that, I understand why people are excited. When you look at him and you look at when you're talking to him, whether it's through an interview or one-on-one, I mean, he's a nice young man. He's got energy. He wants to be good. He wants to help the team. So, I mean, if I'm in the fan base, I'm excited also. As a coach, though, and being an experienced coach, I know that he's still a young player, and he's in his learning curve. Our goaltender coach feels the same way. He's got a tremendous amount of potential. It's up to us to make sure that we develop that potential properly. I think with Brian Elliott, who's healthy this year, I've talked to him about the good internal competition that I want between both of them, and they both get on well. I think in today's NHL, you need two good goaltenders. That position has become so more demanding, so much more challenging. When I got back in the league back in 2006, Luongo, Hall of Famer, made me look like a good coach. Oh, back then you were playing your number one goaltender 70 games. You don't do that anymore. It's gone from 70 to 60 so that you get into the playoffs and your goaltender still got some energy. It's even, in my mind, going probably towards 55 games. So you need two guys that can win games, that can play well, and I believe that that's what we have. We've got a good young goaltender that's on the upswing. We've got a veteran guy that's proven that he can win, that is healthy right now. So I feel real good about this tandem.
You mentioned something before about being a good team, and I'm sure you've probably heard this at some point, but one of the terms that's kind of surrounded this team for at least the last 6 years, probably longer, is the idea of this being a mediocre team, a mediocre franchise, a middling kind of team. 8 of the last 12 teams that you've coached have surpassed that 100-point threshold. Obviously, those are different situations that's been over an extended career, but what is it that you think has been like a common unifying factor, something that's been consistent with those teams that are able to get over that 100-point threshold?
Well, I would say to you, in a lot of those teams, going into the season, a lot of times the experts would have considered us a mediocre team. I think one of the reasons why we were able to achieve and probably overachieve what people thought that we would get was I'm very precise in what I demand to players individually, and I'm very precise to what I demand to the team. I hold them accountable, and I make sure that they understand what the right way to play is. And that's what I'm going to do with this group. I'm very confident that with my coaching staff, with the support of management and ownership, everybody's going to have a clear direction, and we're going to be able to make this team play well and win a lot of games.
You mentioned the coaching staff. We got a lot of questions from fans, and one of them was, what are the strengths of having 2 previous head coaches as assistants on the team?
One thing for me that comes to mind, there's nobody that understands more the importance of an assistant coach than a head coach. I've got 2 guys that, without a doubt, throughout their career have been well surrounded, and they know the importance of doing their role and their jobs the right way. And both Mikes, both Michelles or Mikes, however you want to call them, are extremely excited about this opportunity, extremely excited about this team. I've known Michelle, the other Mike, for a long time. I know what a solid hockey person he is, and this is a different role for him. But I know that he's looking forward to it. He's looking forward to being the good cop instead of, as a head coach, a lot of times you're the bad cop. He's looking forward to that. He's looking forward to the rapport that he's going to have with the players, his responsibilities with the power play, just like the other Mike, who has been an assistant before, a little longer than the French Mike. So he, both those guys with Lappy, who's been here, who's a flyer, and Dilly, who's in charge of our goaltender. Plus, we've added a conditioning coach. We've added another video coach. I've brought in this year a skill coach. We've put in pieces. We've added some support staff that I think are going to make this group real strong.
That leads into your analytics question,
yeah, because
right?
Usually we'll ask somebody about the role of analytics in the current game, and then usually it's about the same soundbite. It's the eye test is important, analytics are important, and that's about it. But roster construction, and even as you look to implement, since you've expanded the coaching staff, is there something that you look at now in terms of an analytic metric that has more of an important role than it did like at the start of your career, something that you look to lean on a little bit more?
Without getting into the specifics, because there are some things that we're doing here that I believe other teams aren't doing. Like Chuck has really innovated and added some pieces to that. We get a lot of stats. I look at 100% at everything I get. Some of it to me has a little bit more impact than other stuff, but I feel that it's important. Whether it's different, I'll give you some ideas. Different line combinations, different duos on the PK, the rotation of those duos. Like you can go through everything. It's amazing the amount of information that you can get in today's, and it's useful. Again, the eye test is important, but there is a lot of information there that I believe is useful that you can use. You just got to make sure you use it the right way. And then from there, what do you share with your players that can help them? And what do you keep internally, just the coaches? And what does management? Because management gets another set of input too. What do they use? What do they share with the coaches? So, it's really evolved. Probably no doubt in my mind that maybe hockey was maybe a step behind in some of the other sports, but we're catching up, and it's just a matter of figuring out with all the information that you can get in today, what's useful for the coaches, what's useful for the players, which part can you share with your players that are going to help them become better.
I want to take you back, though, to when you were an assistant coach, which is way back.
Whoa.
We're going back.
Yeah.
Way back. The guy looks like he's, 30, 32? That can't be that long ago.
92, 93.
Yeah, which was maybe one of the worst teams in the history of hockey, that Ottawa Senators
team. It was
team.
in the top 3.
They were 10, 70, and 4 or something like that. There were like 7 former Flyers on that team.
Kerry Huffman, who's assistant coach with the Phantoms, was on that team.
So Brad Marsh was on that team,
right,
who works for the Flyers as well. Right. Is there anything? First of all, I wanted to know what that was like back then with a team like that. I'm sure it was kind of crazy because that was when expansion teams had to be bad before they were allowed to be good, unlike today. Yeah. But if there was, in conjunction with that, was there anything from that era when you were, I guess you were 31 at the time when you were assistant coach, that you kind of took with you that still exists as part of your coaching legacy today?
You know, looking back on that time, honestly, like I wasn't ready for that. I was 31, and that expansion team at the time, you know, talent-wise, you know, we kidded around a lot of times that we had the wrong hull, the wrong Turgeon, you know, just to survive mentally. You know, we won maybe a game.
Wrong Deneen.
Wrong Deneen. We maybe won a game every month or something. It was. I'm not sure. I am sure knowing what I do today, that I'm not sure I would do that again. As much as it probably was good for my learning capabilities. You know, it was a challenge. You know, you're in this game to win, and you know, for us back then, if the other team showed up, we had no chance. You know, everything had to be aligned. You know, they had to play a real bad game. We had to get all the bounces, and it was tough. It was tough for the players. It was tough for the coaches. It was just. And this wasn't any fun for any of the players that were there too. I mean, at that time, if you look at what, you know, those two expansion teams could draft, I mean, you know, you're talking about. I think they could protect 20 players back then. So a good American League team would have probably been able to challenge us back then. So it was a tough experience. One thing, if you ask me, one thing that I learned from that, I made a very good friend in Rick Bowness. He was the head coach. And when I went to Vancouver, he's the guy that I brought. I worked with him for 7 years in Van. We went to Stanley Cup finals. One of the guys I respect the most in this business. When I got hired in New York, I would have brought him with me, but he had already accepted the job in Tampa. And last year he accepted the job in Dallas, so he had signed for a few years. But made a good friendship, good hockey mind. I would have probably, you know, would have been considered here in Philly if he didn't have a job, but he had a job. So that's the one thing that I made two good friends. Rick Bowness and E.J. McGuire, we started at the same time.
Yeah.
E.J. had worked here with the Phillies.
Yes,
he was with the NHL. He's passed away since then, but I made two good friendships. Hockey-wise, it's something that I've turned the past, and I don't try and recollect that often.
Outside of hockey,
Yeah.
what makes you tick? What do you do away from the rink?
I'd have to say in the summer I'm a golfer. I've got two good groups that we go on golfing excursions together, and I'm a member at Club Links back home, which is you've got courses in Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa where I'm from. So I've got a good group of people that when the season is over, you need to get away. You need to see your friends, see your kids, see your family. My parents are still alive, so they're 85 and 86.
Wow. Good for them.
So it's good during hockey season. I mean, you have no life. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. All you do is work, you know, and it's 7 days a week. It's long days. It starts early in the morning and it finishes late at night. Those are the demands of the job, demands of the business. So it's hockey season during the winter, and it's a little bit of golf in the summer.
Do you do anything like live streaming on TV or any you watch any shows or?
You know what?
Is there anything along
The
those
beauty
lines?
of me growing up in this culture is I don't know what Twitter is. I don't know what social media is. Podcast to me is because I've been told what it is. I know about my press conferences every day. I know that some information go on TV, some go here, some go in the papers. I don't take a lot of time to check on that, and I think that's how I've been able to survive and do my job. It's not an easy job as far as if you're reading out there what people are saying about you and you're at all sensitive in any way. This could be really challenging. Sometimes my daughters tell me, "Do you know, Dad, you're getting it.
Yeah.
You're getting it from all sides right now." And
Well, you've worked in some of the toughest markets in hockey.
I would say any Canadian market it would be challenging.
And then New York, and now here Philly.
Yeah, the difference between Canada and the States is in the States you've got 4 teams. You know, you have 4 sports.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the football, the baseball, the basketball, and the hockey. So, you know, in any sport, any of those four sports, there's other sports in Canada, except maybe for Toronto now with the Raptors. There's one sport, and that's hockey. And hockey is 24/7. It's on everything. It's what sells the most, and it's what people talk the most about. So in Canada, it can be a little bit more challenging. Like I would literally, when I was in Vancouver and Montreal at the time I was married, but in Vancouver I was alone. If we were having a tough time, I wouldn't go do the groceries because it just would be nonstop.
Right.
So, you're basically going from your parking spot to the team's parking spot, and you're ordering in, and and you're trying to get the team back going because it's a challenging market. It's different than in the States, but every market's got their challenge. This here, in the small amount of time that I've been here, and I'm really sensing an intense fan base, a passionate fan base. I got it yesterday at our golf course, a fan base that wants to win. I want people to believe that I want to win as much as they do. I've come close twice. I believe the third time is going to be the right time, and this is it for me.
What's like the biggest thing that you've learned? You just mentioned having gone to 2 Stanley Cup finals and not being able to get over that hump. Is that the thing that motivates you the most, or I don't know, because some people would take that and say that's a heck of an accomplishment to get that far, and then others say we got to move on to the next season. But is there something about those experiences that fuels you?
The thing about those experiences coming so close, I want to be on the other side. I want to be on the winning side. I do know that for you to win, it's tough to get in just the playoffs with the parity that we have in today's league. To be the one team out of 31 next year or the year after will be 32. Any team to win, things have to fall into place a little bit too. You have to have a good team without a doubt. You have to have talent. You have to stay healthy, and you have to stay healthy for that 2-month period. That grind that players go through, that 4 playoff series, win 4 games first to move on to the next series, 4 games first. It's unbelievable. It's incredible what you find out about your team, what you find out about individual players, what they are willing to put themselves through physically and mentally to be able to win that cup. And you need a special breed. I'm going to find out about this. I'm hearing some good things, but I'm going to find out by being hands-on if we've got the mental capacity to get in and to be to win the series that are going to permit you to have an opportunity to compete for the cup. And that's why I'm here. I want to compete for that Stanley Cup.
And so what my biggest takeaway from this interview is going to be, Russ?
What's that?
My biggest takeaway is that AV's never going to hear us sing his praises because he doesn't listen to the podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he'll never hear us talk all these wonderful things about him.
Or I won't be able to hear you second-guessing me on a number of things.
We would never do such a thing.
Which is fine. You know what? At the end of the day, I think what I've learned the most is I get it. I get the passionate fans and the critiques, and when you're doing well, them being. I understand that. Just like I understand that you guys have a job to do, and part of that job is asking questions, and I respect that. I would not dare you, but I would question you to find somewhere in the whether it be the New York market or the Vancouver market or the Montreal market, to find me someone in your line of work that I didn't get along with.
Right.
I mean, I understand that. I don't take it personally. I know you guys got a job to do, and you got to do what you got to do. At the end of the day, that's the best way of working out.
And we appreciate that.
No problem.
AV, thank you very much for coming
My
on
pleasure.
to the Goalie Podcast. And thanks again, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you down the road.
We will, no problem. Anytime, guys.
Awesome.